The crowd went silent as young Mei Mei froze on set, her eyes locked on the monitor. The scene playing back wasn't the one she'd filmed the day before. It was different, edited, rearranged, rewritten. Her close-up was gone. Her emotional climax, the one that had taken 3 sleepless nights to perfect, replaced by another woman's face. Lin Jia. The young actress, barely 3 years into the industry, was now standing where she once stood, speaking lines that were never hers to begin with. The director's voice echoed through the room, casual but sharp. We thought this version tested better with audiences. A hush fell. Crew members looked away. Yu Long remained silent, his expression unreadable, as young Mei Mei's gaze darted between him and the monitor. The air was heavy, too heavy for words. She didn't scream. She didn't protest. She just whispered, "When did this stop being our story?" Then she turned, walked off set, and the only sound left was the faint hum of the playback machine looping Lin Jia's new scene over and over again, like a cruel reminder that nothing lasts forever in the world of fame. It hadn't started this way. Weeks earlier, the entertainment world was ablaze with excitement. After years of separation, young Mei Mei and Yu Long were finally reuniting for their 31st film, Echoes of Tomorrow. Fans flooded social media with hashtags celebrating the comeback of Asia's most iconic duo, believing their chemistry would once again light up the screen. But what began as a dream reunion soon spiraled into a silent war no one saw coming. Lin Jia was introduced as a supporting actress, a promising newcomer meant to add fresh perspective. Yet, from her very first table read, she commanded attention. The director smiled more, the cameras lingered longer, and Yu Long seemed unusually invested in her performance. At first, young Mei Mei ignored it, convincing herself it was harmless. But it wasn't long before subtle changes began to emerge, scripts reprinted overnight, dialogue trimmed, camera angles redirected. Slowly, quietly, her presence in the film began to shrink. The turning point came during the 3rd week of filming. The pivotal scene, a tearful confrontation between the 2 leads, was meant to recapture the electric intimacy that once defined them. Young Mei Mei had spent days rehearsing every line, pouring herself into it, knowing fans were waiting for this exact moment. But just as the director raised his hand to cue the scene, he said, "Let's try something different." Lin Jia, step in midway. The set went still. Lin Jia hesitated, but the director nodded encouragingly. As cameras rolled, Lin Jia interrupted halfway, her voice slicing through young Mei Mei's monologue like a blade. It wasn't in the script. It wasn't planned. It was intrusion disguised as innovation. The tension was real, so real that the crew could barely breathe. When cut was called, the director clapped, proud of the raw emotion. Yu Long looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Young Mei Mei didn't speak. She simply walked out of the studio, her heels echoing against the cold concrete floor. Days passed. No one mentioned it, but the energy had changed. Rumors began spreading online, rumors of rivalry, jealousy, even sabotage. Tabloids called it the silent feud reborn. Yu Long tried to maintain peace, but his actions spoke differently. He was seen spending more time with Lin Jia, reviewing takes, discussing dialogue, sometimes laughing between scenes. It was harmless, maybe, but to outsiders, it looked like alliance. And in an industry built on perception, appearance is everything. When the trailer for Echoes of Tomorrow finally dropped, the internet erupted. Lin Jia dominated every frame alongside Yu Long, while young Mei Mei appeared only briefly, almost as an afterthought. The tagline read, "When destiny chooses someone new." It wasn't just marketing, it was mockery. Fans felt betrayed. "Why erase her?" one comment read. This was supposed to be their movie. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Young Mei Mei and hashtag Lin Jia replaces Mei Mei trended for days. Young Mei Mei remained silent. Her team issued a polite statement wishing the production success, but she withdrew from press tours. Even Yu Long's interviews turned awkward as reporters asked about the tension. "We're professionals," he'd say with a forced smile, yet his eyes betrayed exhaustion. The bond that had once felt unbreakable was now a battlefield of unspoken resentment and corporate manipulation. Then came the dinner photo. One ordinary night, paparazzi captured Yu Long and Lin Jia dining privately, heads close, laughter frozen in flashbulbs. The internet went feral. Is this why Mei Mei left? Were they more than co-stars? It didn't matter whether it was innocent, the damage was done. The public saw betrayal. Young Mei Mei didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. At the premiere, the fracture became visible. Yulong arrived first, charming and composed. Lin Jia followed, radiant and confident. They posed together, smiles flawless, chemistry undeniable. The cameras loved them. 40 minutes later, young Mei Mei appeared alone, wearing emerald green, a quiet symbol of dignity amid chaos. The crowd cheered, but she didn't wave. She walked the red carpet like a ghost from another era, unbothered yet heartbreakingly distant. During the film screening, applause thundered, but before the credits rolled, she slipped out quietly through the side exit. The movie shattered box office records. Critics praised Lin Jia's modern brilliance and Yulong's emotional depth, but reviews of young Mei Mei's performance were bittersweet, elegant yet overshadowed. For the first time in her illustrious career, she was not the center of the story. Weeks later, headlines confirmed what everyone suspected. Young Mei Mei declines sequel offer, plans to step away from acting. The entertainment world mourned her decision. Fans wept online, accusing the industry of discarding its icons too easily. Yulong said little, except in one rare interview. When asked if he missed working with her, he paused before replying, "Some partnerships define you. You just don't realize their worth until they're gone." His words rippled across social media, dissected and reinterpreted by millions. Was it regret? Was it guilt? No one knew. Young Mei Mei resurfaced months later at a charity gala, serene as ever. When a journalist asked if she'd watched Echoes of Tomorrow since its release, she smiled faintly and said, "I lived it." That was enough. Those 6 words became legendary, an unspoken confession, a poetic farewell. Behind the scenes, Yulong continued his career, signing Lin Jia for his next project. The world moved on, but something in him never did. Every time the cameras rolled, he'd find himself glancing toward the empty space where young Mei Mei once stood, a silence that lingered louder than applause. In the end, the double casting wasn't just a creative choice. It was a mirror reflecting the fragile reality of fame, how loyalty bends under the weight of ambition, how talent can be eclipsed by novelty, and how even the brightest partnerships can fade without a sound. For fans, it was more than gossip. It was heartbreak captured on film. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of memory, young Mei Mei's voice still echoes, soft, steady, unforgettable. When did this stop being our story? Because in the ruthless theater of fame, even legends are replaceable. But the truth never is. The studio was darker than usual that night, lit only by the glow of screens replaying the day's footage. Everyone had gone home, except Yulong. He sat alone in the editing room, eyes locked on the monitor as Lin Jia's face appeared beside his own. Every smile, every glance, every flicker of chemistry felt forced, yet the director had called it magic. But it wasn't magic. It was imitation. A copy of something real that had once existed only between him and young Mei Mei. He leaned back, running a tired hand through his hair. On the desk beside him was a crumpled script, one that still bore young Mei Mei's notes in faint pencil marks. Small reminders like, "Pause here," or "Look away when it hurts most." Her handwriting looked delicate, almost fragile now, and Yulong couldn't shake the weight pressing on his chest. He hadn't seen her in weeks. Not since the night she'd walked out of set without a word. The next morning, the production meeting was colder than the room's air conditioning. The director, sharp-eyed and pragmatic, shuffled through papers. "We're moving forward," he said. "The new cuts test well. Audiences are responding to Lin Jia's freshness." "Freshness," Yulong repeated quietly, his tone unreadable. "Is that what we're calling it now?" The director didn't look up. "It's business, Long. Don't get sentimental." But sentiment was all Yulong had left. He remembered the early years, how young Mei Mei used to challenge him, not with words, but with the quiet fire in her eyes. Their scenes together had never needed explanation. Their chemistry simply was. Now, he was acting beside someone who was perfect on paper but hollow in presence. Every gesture rehearsed, every emotion polished to gleaming emptiness. Later that week, Lin Jia knocked softly on his dressing room door. "You've been distant," she said, leaning against the frame, her expression curious but gentle. Yulong glanced at her reflection in the mirror. "I'm just tired." She smiled faintly. "It's not easy, replacing a legend." He turned sharply. "Who said you were replacing anyone?" "Everyone," she whispered. "Even if they don't say it out loud." Her honesty stung. Lin Jia wasn't malicious, just ambitious, a product of a world that rewarded hunger over humility. She wanted success, and the studio wanted a new face to sell it. But beneath her confidence, Yulong sensed a quiet fear, the fear of being the villain in someone else's story. That night, the crew prepared for one of the film's most emotional sequences, a goodbye scene meant to mirror the real-life distance between the leads. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The cameras rolled, lights dimmed, and Yulong stood in the rain-soaked set, waiting for young Mei Mei's cue. But she never came. The assistant director rushed in, whispering urgently to the director. "She's not answering her phone. Her driver said she's gone home." The director cursed under his breath, then turned to Yulong. "We'll shoot Lin Jia's part first. Mei Mei can reshoot tomorrow." But she didn't return the next day. Or the next. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Some said young Mei Mei was ill. Others claimed she'd quit altogether. The truth was simpler but more painful. She had realized the story no longer belonged to her. Her once sacred partnership had become a brand, her artistry replaced by metrics and modern appeal. Yulong called her once, twice, then stopped trying. What could he say? "I didn't protect what we built. I let them rewrite our legacy." There were no words strong enough to undo the silence between them. 2 weeks later, she appeared again, unexpectedly, on set. No one dared to breathe as she entered, calm and composed, her green coat trailing like a curtain behind her. Even Lin Jia froze mid-sentence. "I'm here to finish what I started," young Mei Mei said simply. Her performance that day was nothing short of haunting. Every word carried the weight of unsaid emotions, every look 1,000 untold confessions. The camera loved her, but it wasn't admiration, it was reverence. The crew stood still long after the director yelled, "Cut!" as if afraid to break the spell. When filming ended, Yulong approached her cautiously. "You didn't have to come back," he said quietly. She met his gaze, steady and distant. "Yes, I did. If I left it unfinished, they'd think it broke me." "It didn't." He hesitated, then asked, "Did I?" For a moment, she didn't answer. Then, with the faintest smile, she whispered, "You didn't have to help them make it easier." Those words carved themselves into him. He wanted to speak, to explain, to tell her how powerless he'd felt as the story slipped through their hands, but she was already walking away, her reflection dissolving in the studio lights. When Echoes of Tomorrow premiered, Yulong avoided the after-party. He watched from his car as cameras flashed and Lin Jia basked in attention. But all he could see in his mind was the rain-drenched set and young Mei Mei's parting words echoing through the silence. Weeks later, the film's success became undeniable. Lin Jia was hailed as the future of cinema. Yulong was praised for evolving with time. Yet none of it felt like victory. Every compliment was hollow, every award a reminder of what he'd lost. One night, unable to sleep, he found himself scrolling through old footage, their early films, back when things were simpler. There she was, young Mei Mei laughing between takes, teasing him about missing his mark, their hands brushing unintentionally. The magic was real then, alive and unmanufactured. He paused the video, the frame freezing on her smile. He whispered to the screen, "It was never the same without you." Across the city, young Mei Mei sat by her window, sipping tea as city lights flickered below. Her phone buzzed with notifications, interview requests, brand offers, messages from fans begging her to return. She smiled faintly, then turned it face down. She didn't need the noise anymore. She'd said what she needed to say on screen. And though the industry had moved on, she knew her absence would echo louder than any new face could replace. For Yulong, the world continued spinning. New co-stars, new headlines, new films. But somewhere, beneath the applause and flashbulbs, he carried the ghost of a partnership that had once defined him. The ghost of a woman who never needed to shout to be unforgettable. And in every performance since, there was a flicker, brief, almost invisible, of something deeper behind his eyes. Regret. Because no matter how many scenes he filmed or how many partners stood beside him, none could recreate that one unspoken question that still haunted him, the same one she asked the day it all began to fall apart. When did this stop being our story? He never found the answer. And perhaps he never will.